Hey everybody, Joe Lawyer here from Etalog Man Cave, and thank you for watching the video. A quick announcement here before we get going is that I just decided to do something a little bit different. I know there's about a dozen members or so I have for my channel, and YouTube has this cool feature that if you can release a video to go with a pre-scheduled time in advance, like a couple days from now. Like I'm recording this on what the hell is it, Tuesday, right? So you're going to see this maybe what, Thursday or Friday or something like that, depending when I drop it. But if you're a member of the channel, I could set it so that the members see it first immediately as soon as I upload it, and then the rest of you guys do it. So for 99 cents, you can see the videos early if you want, help support me, and all that kind of shit. Pay for this damn restream cost and my web page site and all that stuff. Help pay the bills. And once I get 50 members, then I will actually do a month-to-month live stream just for you guys. We could all join in. I'll give you the link. We could all hang out and bullshit together. So that'd be fun. But anyway, jumping back into it here. I was just thinking today, and I wanted to just get you guys' thoughts in the comments and whatnot. Just what's going to happen now with D&D? I mean, when I went on Eric's show, Eric Tankar, last Friday, we're talking about the Sigil demise and everything that happened because of that. And Bad Mike was saying, well, what's next? He thinks it's going to be a new version of the game, and within a couple of years, we're going to have a new version of D&D. I'm not too sure. Because I've been thinking about it for the last few days, and I would say no. We're not going to get a new version of D&D. Here's why, and just let me know what you think. I'm sort of thinking out loud as I'm saying all this stuff. So let me know what you guys think about it. But when we had new versions, right? You had the original OD&D and all that, and then Gary had a fight with Dave, and he created AD&D. So you got a new, more complicated version because of a legal battle and money, right? So that was the main root of it right there. So then you have one first edition to second edition. It was all about cleaning up and streamlining it and making the presentation better and all that sort of thing. That's what that edition was all about, right? Plus taking Gary out of it, I think, some way too had something to do with it. But that's what that edition was really all about, was streamlining, cleaning up, and a new edition makes some more money off it. Cool. So that's from first to second. Okay. Then in the second edition era, the TSR's final days, $R, I used to call it back then because they were greedy bastards. In TSR's final days, they were going under, and they got bought out by Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast needed a new edition. They needed to restart it. So they came out with something different and revolutionary. The D20 system, that engine, the little engine that powered the SRD back then. Everybody started publishing things for D&D, and it really gave it a huge lift. All right. So the reason for the first to second was clean up and editing and maybe cut Gary out. Right. The reason for the third edition was because D&D, the TSR, they run it into the gutter. And so they needed something new. They needed to this brand new thing. And honestly, this is from a guy who played in the old systems and just ran a 2-year campaign with second edition by the book with 20 pages of house rules. 2E's complicated as shit, right? You're not gonna. It's just hard. It's a hard system. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And so they threw out a lot of the crap and made it a new good system. Now, with the new edition that came out with third edition was 3.5, and to a certain extent, I remember Monty Cook talking about it somewhere on some board a billion years ago, so my hazy recollection. But he was talking about how even when they released third, they knew they were going to come out with a 3.5. I think it was because they needed some fixes and they knew they're going to want to make some money, right? So 3.5 came out and it became bloat. I honestly just like 3.0. We never played 3.5. We went from 3.0, 3.5 was shit, and then fourth edition came out was Pathfinder we jumped to, and that became even more ridiculous. You needed a math finder, we called it, right? So the reason for the third and 3.5 was tinkering and money, not a real good reason. And then came out with fourth edition. The reason for fourth edition was because they wanted to monetize the game and run it like a video game. They had aspirations of a VTT, right? They were going to do something Gleemax or something it was called, and then there was like this murder suicide, and the whole thing fell apart and went to hell. And so what you're looking at there was each evolution of the game, each new edition evolved from what came before. It was a reaction to what came before. And so if you look at it in those terms, what came before first was clunky and hard, so second streamlined it. What came from Third, second to third was the market crashed. TSR was in the gutter. They needed something to jumpstart it, so that's why third edition came about. 3 to 3.5 came about because they wanted money and they wanted to fix some things and then streamline some stuff. All right. Fourth edition came about because they wanted a World of Warcraft style game and World of Warcraft money. They thought they were going to do that with Gleemax and their, the VTT back then. Crashed and burned. I called fourth edition a living and walking abortion. It was terrible. It wasn't even D&D. I don't know what the hell it was, but it was absolutely horrible. So that was fourth edition. And so as a reaction to fourth edition and Pathfinder kicking their ass, which I called Pathfinder 3.75, Pathfinder was kicking Wizards of the Coast ass with a good game. They just kept that rolling along, the whole 3.5 train. Wizards says, we got to change course yet again. And so for each major course change, there was a huge reason for that. All right. There was the second to third, huge course change because of damn near bankruptcy. Third to fourth, because they wanted the money and they radically changed. They wanted the World of Warcraft gamers. They radically changed it. And then fourth to fifth, because they, drove themselves into the gutter again with stupid ideas because the people who ran the company had no freaking idea, what the player base wanted, right? And so now you see with Project Sigil crashing and burning hard, and they already laid off a ton of people who were writing the 5.5 books, as I call it. There's nobody left. The Sigil team is pretty much gone. That's on life support, right? They're going to maintain it, and that's about it until they could get rid of them. The writing team for 5.0 to 5.5 is pretty much gone. So there's nobody there. Now, what will happen? Mike was saying that they're going to have a new edition soon, but I don't know. I don't know because of the way I look at this, that every edition was a reaction to what came before to, make up for a screw up or something like that. On that regard, yeah, Mike, you're right. It would be, we need to do something radically different. But by the same token, it's not making the money like it used to. They're not going to put as much money into it because the audience is going down. They had a huge peak because of a few things, right? Critical Role, Stranger Things, Big Bang Theory, and the Beer Bug, right? So people were playing it. People got back into it. But it was an artificial high, and now they're going low. And they know they're not going to get as much money out of it. Steve Glicker did on Roll for Combat, the YouTube channel Roll for Combat. Good channel, guys. He was talking about his thoughts, as he has a lot of inside contacts, and I think is between the contacts and his own thoughts about it. He was saying that essentially they're gonna like back burner it. They're gonna put out some stuff for it, but they're not gonna make a big jump. The Wizards of the Coast are gonna put all their focus and money into Magic the Gathering, essentially, because it's like printing money each time you print a freaking card. And so they're going to put all their focus and everything into Magic the Gathering, and they're just going to keep chugging along at a low-key, slower pace, what they used to do back in the day. And they're going to use D&D as a brand to make money off of. Like they're going to D&D T-shirts, D&D balls, D&D videos, movies, D&D TV shows, things like that. And so D&D is going to be a brand that they can monetize. They're going to forget about, I think Steve, reading between the lines, I think that's kind of what he was saying. Listen to his video anyway. Just I don't want to misquote him, but the gist of what he's saying is that they're just going to let it go and go at a slow, steady pace like they used to do before it got all big and famous and all that, and they're just going to plug along. I don't think they're going to invest the money in a new game, because a new game is not going to, number one, not going to get them a bigger audience, because quite honestly, there's nothing wrong with 5e. Nothing. I mean, the reason you came out with third edition because first and second were just clunky as shit. The reason you came out with fourth was because third got so goddamn bloated and became like a math exercise. You needed Excel spreadsheets to figure out what the hell was going on. The reason you came out with fifth because fourth sucked. But there's nothing wrong with fifth edition. I hazard a guess that I'm going to take a lot of shit for this, but it's probably the best RPG, D&D RPG that's ever been in terms of accessibility to a new audience. It's well done, the layout, the rules, it's easy to learn. There's a lot of meat to it if you want to go that way. But it's a good game. And I don't see a need for a better game because I don't know how much better they can do. 5.5, even the tweaks and fixes and all that kind of stuff, a lot of it was designed to optimize with the VTT, and that thing shit the bed, right? So at the very least, I mean, there's not going to be and any sort of backscaling to the 5.0. They're not going to get rid of 5.5. I think they're just going to leave the books out there in the market and because you can't take them off the market. You need them in the market all the time. But the game itself is good. There's no need for a new game. There's nothing pushing it for a new game, because if they think that their money stream is going to come from branding and slapping the D&D logo on all kinds of crap and movies and TV shows and all that kind of shit, then there's no need for the RPG, because the RPG doesn't make any level of the same money in comparison. Now, granted, the D&D movie I think lost money, and I heard there's going to be a Netflix D&D series. I'm sure that's going to shit the bed too, because they don't understand what makes a good movie or TV show anymore, because the writers in Hollywood suck, right? We all know that. Look what's happened to the MCU, Star Wars. I mean, you name it, it's gone to shit, right? Disney, everything. And look at Snow White. Jesus Christ. I mean, but the bottom line is they don't know how to write a good show anymore. They don't know how to write a good series. And so I think that's going to go to hell too. They're putting all their eggs in this, branding basket, but D&D is just not cool anymore like it used to be. So you without it being cool, people aren't going to go for the branded stuff. I think they're going to they think they're going to make more money than they're actually going to make. And since there's no need for a good new version of the game, because the game that they have now is just damn fine, and there's so much third-party material out there that you could grab and mine and utilize, you're good to go. I mean, how many people are sticking with 5.0 and not moving to 5e anyway? Because the hell with 5e, it just doesn't make money. 5.5. Let me rephrase that. Sorry. How many people are sticking with 5e, 5.0, and not moving to 5.5? A lot. And I think that's because there's no need for 5.5. There's no need for what they're adding in there. What we have works just fine. Without your game table on Roll20 or in person, you could take a look at the books, the 5.5 books, find the differences, see what you want to adopt, and use them. It's what they should have done, what they could have done, what they really did in full effect is they did a book that was a house ruled 5.0. Right? They did a house ruled 5.0. They call it 5.5 or D&D 2024, whatever the hell they're calling it. And all you have now is a list of changes. I'm sure there's some geeks out there that made a change log of every single change you could possibly have between 5.0 and 5.5. And then it just lets people read it. And I like this. I don't like that. I like this. I don't like that. I'll take this. I'll leave that. Boom. Now you take the best of the house rules. That's what I did. I mean, I looked at it in terms of, I looked at ideas for my own game that I'm writing. And so it's like, if there's a good feat, I can incorporate it to some class ability, I'll take it. That's what I did with everything. And so 5.0 and 5.5 are good enough. There's nothing pushing them to actually create a new game, because they're not banking on their revenue coming from the TTRPG, the tabletop aspect of it. They're banking on it coming from the branding. And so until the branding fails, and that'll be several years, I don't think there's going to be a need for a new game. So I think Mike was saying there's going to be within a couple of years, we'll see a new one. I don't think they're going to see the need for a new one until a few years, until all this bullshit settles down and all their failures, they're became so evident that some new people come in, get involved and say, hey, let's change something. I know, let's make a new game. And then they're going to hire a bunch of idiots to make a new game. But you can't top 5.0 as a great introductory game, as something that gets, asses in seats and for the mass market audience. Now, my heart's in the OSR, and that's where I live and that's what I like. But honestly, the OSR game's a little bit more clunky, and they don't have as much of a following out there. So for all those reasons, I honestly do not see Wizards of the Coast putting out a new RPG anytime soon. I think Steve is right. Steve Glicker from Roll for Combat. I think they're just going to settle down. They're going to keep plugging along at a very low key pace. The big swell, the high tide is going down now, and we're going to go back to what this was in 2015 before it all became like the shit. When 5e first came out, before all the big stuff, started pumping it, like Stranger Things and Critical Role and all that stuff. It's just going to be a little more low key now. What it means for the hobby, I don't know, because D&D does bring in more people into the hobby. But did D&D bring him in, or did Stranger Things and Critical Role and all those other things bring him into the hobby? The Cove, the Beer Bug, and all that stuff. Did all that bring him into the hobby, and D&D was just a vehicle? Maybe, unless there's something that pops. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Stranger Things will be so D&D centered that more people will jump back into it. But I think it's like it's more like the millennials and records, right? Vinyl, as they call them. They got into vinyl because it was retro cool, and now a lot of freaking millennials got Bob Dylan on their shelf back there, which all it did is fuck me over for my used collection of Bob Dylan. I've been into the vinyl before vinyl was cool, right? So that's all it did was raise the stupid prices. I can't wait until the prices go down again when those millennials start selling their shit off. I could get them at a steal from a flea market or something, filling the gaps in my collection. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I just don't think there's going to be a new edition. I don't think there's going to be anything anytime soon. I would give it 5 years, 4 or 5 years before you start hearing rumors and inklings of a new edition, because what's the need? They're not banking their money on there until they realize they can't make money by branding. It's not going to happen. And the reason they can't make money by branding is because they forgot that the hobby is the base. If you don't support the hobby, if you don't support the gamers, if you don't support the guys with dice in their hands, you're not going to grow the reputation of D&D. The only reason D&D had such a huge reputation for the last 5 years is because of all those 4 factors that I talked about. Without that, D&D would have kept plugging along and wouldn't have had all these opportunities for high branding things like movies and TV shows without all that. So D&D, I mean, the Wizards of the Coast just fell into it. They fell into a pot of honey, and they were just lapping it up. And they had nothing to do with the reason they fell into it. They didn't seek out the honey. They didn't have a goal of finding the pot of honey. They just fell into it ass first, and they're eating it all up. And now the honey's run dry, and then they're screwed. And they think that they're like George W. Bush. He was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. It's the old phrase with him. And I think that's the way Wizards of the Coast is. They think they're responsible for it, or at least they're all claiming credit for it, right? Because of their great management strategies and all that. In the meantime, anyone who was there back then is gone now because they saw the like rats fleeing the sinking ship. They're jumping off and they're jumping into other things. They get out before they saw it was going down, and this shit can't last. They saw it, the smart people at least. So yeah, I think that's where it's going to go. They don't realize that they don't have the ability to grow the brand and make money off the brand if they keep ignoring the hobby, all of us, the DMs and the players and the tabletop community. I don't think they're going to bring back, I think Steve was saying they're not going to bring back that in-person gaming stuff that they did, whatever the hell it was called, the gaming group society thing, whatever it was called. So yeah, I would say 5 years before we start hearing inklings of a new system. All right. Anyway, just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And please do share this video around. Click the like button, smash the notification and all that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm doing a mix of videos here. Some thoughts on the hobby, some tips on how to DM, news things, and a little bit of everything here, a little mix. And my big reviews I'm coming up with. I've been promising for a few weeks now. It's taken a lot of freaking time. This goddamn monstrosity. Night Below. It should be out this Sunday. I know I've said it before. I hope I'm planning this Sunday. All right, I'm planning for it. So hopefully it goes through. But thank you very much, guys, for listening this long. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon.